Suddenly the Lord called out, "Samuel." "Yes," Samuel replied. "What is it?" He got up and ran to Eli. "Here I am. Did you call me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go back to bed." So he did. Then Eli realized it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So he said to Samuel, "Go and lie down again, and if someone calls again, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went back to bed. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. All right. So, right now we're looking at 1 Samuel chapter 3, and so first couple of chapters basically involved, Samuel being born and his mother dedicating him to service in the tabernacle because, she had prayed to God about not having a son and she really wanted one, and she made a promise that if she had a son, she would give him, in service to the priests in the tabernacle. So it happened, and that's what she did. And then the second chapter was mostly about Eli the priest and his sons mostly his sons not really respecting their priestly duties. But Samuel actually kind of did a better job of, following up and doing that the way that it should be done than his sons did. So then he got a word from some other man of God, and that's all it describes the person as, is a man of God, but basically got a prophecy of sorts that his sons were going to die quite soon, and a lot of people in his family and or maybe even the broader priesthood would end up dying. So, anyway, yeah, that's about all I think we need for context here. So here we go. 1 Samuel chapter 3. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel served the Lord by assisting Eli. Now in those days, messages from the Lord were very rare, and visions were quite uncommon. One night, Eli, who was almost blind by now, had gone to bed. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was sleeping in the tabernacle near the ark of God. Suddenly the Lord called out, "Samuel." "Yes," Samuel replied. "What is it?" He got up and ran to Eli. "Here I am. Did you call me?" "I didn't call you," Eli replied. "Go back to bed." So he did. Okay, gonna pause there. So, meanwhile, the first word there is just while Eli's sons were basically misbehaving and not caring about their priestly duties, that's the meanwhile there. So as I kind of stated already, Samuel was, assisting Eli and kind of doing a better job of respecting the priesthood than Eli's own sons, who were kind of by birthright priests themselves. So messages from the Lord were rare and visions were uncommon. So that's kind of important to note, even if just for the sake of saying that, okay, any hearing from God, any visions, anything like that, it was unexpected, even for the priests. So then suddenly, the Lord calls out to Samuel, and he's like, "What is this?" Because again, hearing from the Lord was uncommon in those days. So he kind of assumes that it's Eli and goes and asks him if he called, and Eli's like, "No, go back to bed." Footnote: a tabernacle, it says the temple of the Lord, which that basically is just what the tabernacle was at that point. It wasn't like the kind of, it was still the, tent structure of the tabernacle that was the main place of worship of the Lord. It was not like a, stone or whatever other more permanent kind of looking structure that would have been like, the later temple that was built. So, Samuel and Eli have that little bit of back and forth. Samuel goes back to bed. And then we get to verse 6. Then the Lord called out again, Samuel. Again Samuel got up and went to Eli. Here I am. Did you call me? I didn't call you, my son, Eli said. Go back to bed. Samuel did not yet know the Lord because he had never had a message from the Lord before. So the Lord called a third time, and once more Samuel got up and went to Eli. Here I am. Did you call me? Then Eli realized it was the Lord who was calling the boy. So he said to Samuel, Go and lie down again, and if someone calls again, say, Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. So Samuel went back to bed. Okay, so not only was hearing from the Lord uncommon then, but like Samuel, being relatively young, wouldn't, he certainly wouldn't have heard directly from the Lord before, or at least it's highly unlikely he would have. And that's kind of what it's saying in verse 7 here. Did not yet know so it says he did not yet know the Lord. Like, he probably knew of the Lord, knew about the Lord, knew even like what the Lord wanted, but didn't necessarily mean that he, outright knew the voice of God or anything like that. So he's still thinking it's Eli, but after the third time, Eli is like, okay, hold up. I've not been calling him these 3 times. It's probably the Lord. So then he gives the suggestion of, responding with, Speak, Lord, your servant is listening, if and when Samuel hears another voice calling his name. So, then verse 10. And the Lord came and called as before, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel replied, Speak, your servant is listening. Then the Lord said to Samuel, I am about to do a shocking thing in Israel. I am going to carry out all my threats against Eli and his family, from beginning to end. I have warned him that judgment is coming upon his family forever, because his sons are blaspheming God, and he hasn't disciplined them. So I have vowed that the sins of Eli and his sons will never be forgiven by sacrifices or offerings. So, he's essentially telling Samuel what was prophesied to Eli before, and more than that, saying to Samuel that, like, hey, this is about to happen. So, yeah, might want to be prepared for that. Especially in Samuel's case, like, that would maybe then call upon him to assist more in priestly duties. Footnote there at blaspheming God. It says, as in the Greek version, Hebrew reads, his sons have made themselves contemptible. Similar all around meaning either way. Basically just that, Eli's sons were not being good examples. They were basically uncaring of their worship and service to God. And by doing so, they were making God look bad. And because Eli hadn't, like, kind of, wrangled them in and set them straight, God is going to essentially, bring his own discipline into the matter. Then we get to verse 15. Samuel stayed in bed until morning. Then he got up and opened the doors of the tabernacle as usual. He was afraid to tell Eli what the Lord had said to him. But Eli called out to him, "Samuel, my son." "Here I am," Samuel replied. So, understandably, he didn't really want to tell Eli what the Lord had told him. Maybe he didn't know that Eli was already told. But either way, it's like, it's not fun being the bearer of bad news. So, he didn't necessarily want to talk with Eli right away, but Eli calls out for him, so looks like they're about to have that conversation anyway. Hebrews says the house of the Lord there at Tabernacle. Wasn't that the same way that it says temple of the Lord? Still, same general idea. Anyway, okay. On to verse 17, and we'll, I guess, wrap up the reading anyway, and then I'll give my final thoughts for that section. "What did the Lord say to you? Tell me everything, and may God strike you and even kill you if you hide anything from me." That was Eli speaking to Samuel. So Samuel told Eli everything. He didn't hold anything back. "It is the Lord's will," Eli replied. "Let him do what he thinks best." As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him, and everything Samuel said proved to be reliable. And all Israel, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh and gave messages to Samuel there at the tabernacle. So Samuel tells Eli about God telling him that Eli's sons are about to die, and there's a whole bunch of other bad stuff that's about to happen to Eli's family. But Eli's like, well, it's from God, so, God knows what's ultimately best. Even if I don't like it, it's gonna happen. So then, the last couple verses just further affirm that, Samuel was even closer with the Lord than Eli's sons, or maybe even Eli himself. And, it's basically confirmed over the course of time that he hears directly from the Lord and is thus a prophet, essentially, because that's really the general gist of what a prophet is. It's someone who hears from God and speaks God's will and God's words to the people. But anyway, that's where we leave things off for 1 Samuel chapter 3. Okay, so this right here is the story of Samuel that most people know. It usually kind of glosses over the part at the end where he tells Eli everything that God told him, but it's important to look at that part at the end, though, because that's, kind of making it clear that, this wasn't a one-time thing. Samuel did continue to hear the Lord's voice after what was described in this chapter, and the rest of Israel became aware of it, and so he wound up becoming kind of like a judge again, definitely primary spiritual leader of the people. Maybe not quite judge, though, because I don't know. It seems like the word judge gets used somewhat interchangeably for a couple of different roles in this part of the Bible. But anyway, I digress. Point being, Samuel becomes a significant leader because they know that he hears directly from God, and he essentially is a prophet to the people, telling them what God wants. But anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and click the bell if you're on YouTube to get updates when I post new videos. If you're seeing me anywhere else, give me a follow or whatever's appropriate for that platform to keep up with the latest content that's on there. Look down in the description to get info on different social media pages and places where you can find my content and keep up with all that. And of course, leave comments down below with any thoughts you have. So that'll do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. Whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.